Too bad. I was liking the song. You could have played more of that song, yes. That's the Lounge Lizards doing that. I enjoyed it, and like I said, maybe we'll do some more of it at the end of the show. Good morning, Austin. Welcome to the Atheist Experience. My name is Ray Blevins. This show is brought to you by Atheist Community of Austin. And today's guest, well, let me start off with my co-host. I always start off with my co-host, Jeff D.
Hi, folks.
And my guest today is Don Rhoades.
Morning, Ray.
Good morning. He was our outgoing co-chairperson. Today's we're having our board meeting today with our official new co-chairpersons,
That's
Sue
right.
and John.
And I get to try the secretary role.
Yes.
We'll see how that works out.
We get a real secretary this year, maybe. I'm the one who did secretary last year. And that's really about the only news I can think of for the group. Is today is our board meeting. Today is June 13th. And the other announcement, I want to remind everyone, one of our members is sponsoring a essay contest for atheists there and giving away money for scholarship. And if you double check our webpage, they'll have all the information on there so if there's any of the atheist seniors out there that'd like some help with college, it's been a very generous donation there.
High school seniors.
Yeah, high school
not senior citizens. just in case people didn't get that.
Thank you, Jeff. I also told everyone last week that you went to the North Texas Church of Free Thought.
That's correct. Six of us from the ACA drove up there.
And you want to give us quick highlights on that?
Sure. We had, it was my wife and I and Maria and the Miller family drove the 3.5 hours all the way up to Irving last week, and it was really interesting. They meet in a hotel that apparently rents out space to a lot of different church organizations. At the same time that the North Texas Church of Free Thought was meeting in one corner of the lobby, the Metroplex Fellowship was meeting in the other corner of the lobby, and that was kind of interesting that they were so close together. The service was about the lives of Thomas Paine and Voltaire, who were actually not atheists. They were deists, but they were champions of free thought, and they told their life stories and the circumstances of their deaths. How Voltaire tried to trick the Catholic Church in France, I guess it was, into thinking that he had converted at the end, because if you weren't a good Catholic, you couldn't get buried properly, and he didn't want his body dumped in a hole by the side of the road. So he gave him this very carefully worded confession that really didn't admit anything, and it almost worked, because even though apparently the higher-ups in the church realized what he was after, he got buried in his tomb before word came back from the higher-ups that they didn't want to accept his admission of whatever it was they thought he was admitting to. But turns out his bones disappeared from his crypt within a few years anyway, so, and there's a lot of suspicion that the church was behind that because they really didn't want to give him a proper burial. And none of that stopped the Catholic Church from waving his so-called confession around as if it were a real confession, so they could take credit for it anyway. And then there was the story of Thomas Paine, the guy who wrote, was it Common Sense?
Common Sense.
The pamphlet that really got Americans thinking about rebelling against Britain. And he got involved in the French Revolution. He was imprisoned in the Bastille because after the Revolution, he thought that the revolutionaries shouldn't kill the former king, because in his view this was a political thing and the king was just a guy, and once they'd gotten him out of the throne it was like no big deal. But the revolutionaries were all completely nuts by that point, and they imprisoned him in the Bastille, where he wrote most of his book The Age of Reason. And The Age of Reason came out, and that's what got a lot of Christians in the United States upset with him and got him marginalized. And there was a very emotional reading of an account of the circumstances of his death, where a church official came and was standing by the side of his bed as he was lying, dying in horrible pain, and said, "This is your last chance. Will you accept that Jesus Christ came and died for your sins?" And Thomas Paine's last words, at least to that guy, were, "I have no interest in believing on that subject." And as the woman who was reading this account choked up after reading that line, that incredibly brave statement from a man who was not going to abandon his principles just because he was in horrible pain, and she stopped. There was only like one more sentence that she had to read, which was like the date and time of his death, but she stopped, and there was like a 15-second period where there was absolute silence in the room before she could bring herself to go on. She was so full of emotion on that. So that was very effective. I like that a lot. There was a great song that was performed live. People in the group wrote a song based on a quote from Voltaire, which was "Crush the infamous thing being superstition," and they wrote a song with that as the refrain. That was great. So it was really interesting. I'm going to do a full report to our board of directors this morning about things that they do that we might want to mimic.
Well, I appreciate
I'll do more of that then.
And I appreciate that. And as you see, today's topic is, what is religion? These people have formed an atheist church, basically, and they feel like they've taken what they consider the best parts and got rid of the superstition, and are filed and organized as a church. They're getting tax exempt because of a church and everything else.
Well, they didn't. There's. I mean, they were.
And Don's been to the show. Don's been to their service too. So
that's right.
You went the month before, didn't you? Or 2 months ago?
Oh gosh, I've been twice.
Okay.
Oh, wow. It's quite a drive, isn't it?
It is quite a drive. I had other reasons to be in Dallas, and when I'm in Dallas, I'll try to schedule it for first Sunday of every month is when they have their service. And this is from everything they say and from what I've seen, it's not called a church for some kind of tax exempt or some kind of purpose like that. They're very serious about it, and they think that there's nothing wrong with the church concept that taking out the superstitious stuff won't fix. Yeah. They're very very serious about it, and they just want the same advantages as other churches have, and they feel like that they're offering a real church. Now, for lots of atheists, that raises a lot of questions. We're not really used to calling our organizations a church. When we were naming the Atheist Community of Austin, the word church never came up.
No, it didn't.
It was not suggested at all.
That's good.
It's different.
So that brings us to the rest of the news this week. The Wiccans have made several articles. There were several articles about the Wiccans, and you have an article that you brought in.
Yeah, last time I was on the show to do news, this was just starting. There was some guy who saw this article in the Statesman about the Wiccans practicing their beliefs on an army base, and apparently since then, right-wing religious conservative groups have gotten together and decided that they wanted to boycott the army.
Yes.
And I had to look back to I only found this week's story on this development, so I had to look back to an earlier story to figure out what that meant. What did boycotting the army mean? Does that mean like, no, if people invade my state, I'm just going to let them. I'm not going to let the army protect us. But no, it means not volunteering to perform military service. So that's interesting. So anyway, the statement that they issued was, until the Army withdraws all official support and approval from witchcraft, no Christian should enlist or re-enlist in the Army, and Christian parents should not allow their children to join the Army, said Paul M. Wyrick, president of the Free Congress Association, one of the organizations calling for the boycott. An army that sponsors satanic rituals is unworthy of representing the United States of America. Among the 13 groups calling for the boycott were such familiar names as the Christian Coalition, Traditional Values Coalition, Christian Action Network, and American Family Association. The Christian Coalition alone boasts 2.1 members. But the latest development is that the Christian Coalition has pulled out. They say they will not tell their members to participate in the army boycott. Their statement is that the Christian Coalition doesn't tell its members what to do on personal issues of faith. As individuals, Christian Coalition members may support the boycott. And I'm suspicious, since they've gotten burned before by supporting things like voter guides in election campaigns. I'm curious whether this actually comes down to a legal issue, whether they're worried about losing their tax-exempt status if they support this boycott. I'm not sure, but that's something I'm going to keep an eye on. And the American Family Association has also withdrawn its support. And this Paul M. Weyrich of the Free Congress Foundation said he was disappointed. He said, "We held a coalition meeting, laid out our game plan, and asked people to sign on. A couple of these groups either misunderstood what was being advocated or got cold feet." So that's interesting. And of course, it's complete nonsense, because their religious practices, Christian religious practices, are just as superstitious, just as unfounded in any reality, exactly the same as Wiccan religious practices in all important ways. It's just that Christianity happens to be the biggest single religion, and so they think that they can control. Yeah, in this country, excuse me, of course. And they think that they can control what other people are allowed to use for their goofy religious practices. So
that brings us to the topic there. What is religion? Say that the problem is the government has no clear definition on what religion is.
Right, and you were saying that these guys are saying that Wicca is not a religion?
Yeah,
that's their claim?
They're claiming Wiccan is not a religion, because the article was saying that they don't believe in the devil. So I guess since they don't believe in the devil, they're not a religion.
And that's really bizarre.
I didn't understand that their argument was that it was not a religion. I took it as it's some kind of evil, twisted,
yeah, that statement that I read certainly indicates that. They just think it's evil.
Probably a pretty good misunderstanding of Wicca. I really don't know that much about it, but I have met some.
Right.
And it seems like their attitude towards Wicca, I would almost phrase it as a recreational religion, because it seems to be that they just want to have fun with it. They want to do rituals and things like that. And there doesn't seem to be a lot of consequences or the kind of heavy stuff that we get into with other religious practices. Some very nice people.
Now, what I thought was really interesting is some silly reason the Statesman decided to make that a front-page news article 2 months after it happened.
Oh, it's more than 2 months after it happened. In fact, the Army installation has provided space for the Wiccan group to perform their rituals for 3 years.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, it's been going on for 3 years.
Right.
But they were celebrating the spring equinox, and then some silly reason, the Statesman makes it a front-page article 2 months after the event, and that's what got this state representative,
Bob Barr from Georgia.
Right, all upset.
Fired up.
Because he saw that front-page artitle.
That's the guy.
And at this point, I would like to personally thank Bob Barr of Georgia and Paul Weyrich for handling this so deftly. It's really been enjoyable to see this. And didn't I read where Christian Coalition had lost its tax-exempt status?
Yeah, because of the political. Because they're considered political.
It's been in the
just recently. Does it happen?
Courts for several years, I think.
Okay.
And I believe this week we got word
there are so many
they
of those
have
groups
lost their status and may owe the IRS a great deal of money.
Yes. Well, we have several callers backed up here. Let's go to our first caller, Mary.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mary.
How was the show last week?
Excellent.
Good.
We had Howard Thompson on. Did you miss it?
I don't know who Howard Thompson is.
Oh, okay. That was our guest. He has his own electronic newsletter called the Texas Atheist.
Oh, cool.
And we also had John Kuntz, who I think you've seen on here before.
Yeah. Very
the
intelligent.
school teacher.
Yes.
What I wanted to call, I had another question to ask about the show before that. After I called, somebody called that was real confrontational. Do you remember the caller I'm talking about?
We get those all the time. I don't remember that particular one. But go ahead.
He impressed me. Anyway, I've lived with Texas haters all my life, and they kind of make me nervous.
Right.
Just to even hear what they've got to say. But anyway, I want to get to the point I wanted to make.
Sure.
The Church of Free Thought. It sounds like a good idea. I mean, it sounds like an innovation. It sounds interesting and new. And yet, remember a long time ago I told you I was an anarchist?
Yes.
Well, it isn't something I say casually. I'm an anarchist because I believe that I can govern myself, okay? That I don't need somebody telling me how to act like a decent citizen and how to contribute to society and anything like that. And it's really important to me because it involves my self-esteem, it involves my intellect and everything. It isn't so much the superstition and religion that bothers me because I can laugh at that, okay? It gets really silly and it gets absurd. But the part about religion that I find the most damaging is the hierarchy part, okay? The part about one person telling another person what to do. And that's the part nobody even thinks about. We take it so much for granted that it's okay that one person tell another person what to do. But so much bad feeling and so much baggage has built up here at the end of this century from it. Like we've done it all the time throughout our history. We've always thought it was okay to do, but it's not really okay to do because one of the basic ideas of being an anarchist is that you never delegate authority over your life upward to anybody or anything because you've got to make the decisions in your own life. And yet people do it without even thinking anymore, and it hasn't been very healthy. And that's another thing I wanted to say about Wiccans. They got the coolest healing practices that I've ever run across. And I mean, if I have to put up with a little bit of superstition from it, you know, I can hang with that. It doesn't bother me because I can sort it out in my own mind what the good parts are and what the bad parts are.
So your heritage is Native American, correct? So that would kind of tie in with some of the Wiccan practices.
Oh yeah, they're pagans.
Yeah, they're pagans.
Basically, I'm a pagan.
Okay. By the way, you were talking about hierarchies and stuff. To me, I don't know if anybody else shares this, but the difference between a superstition and a religion is the organization. Is that
there you go.
Is that about right? I mean,
That's pretty
you take
good.
a superstition, you put a hierarchy, an organization, you know, different levels of authority. It's a religion at that point.
So
yeah, I think you're right. Well, that's something for me to think about some more. That's what Don, I really appreciate that about you, is that you keep the dialogue flowing so well. Okay?
Thank you. Thanks for calling, Mary.
Oh, yeah,
Appreciate
well,
your support.
I'll call again.
All right.
Bye.
You have a great week.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, let's go on down to Sonja. Sonja?
Yes.
Good morning.
I'm a Wiccan.
Oh,
Okay.
great. We got a Wiccan call on, yes.
Yeah.
Do you consider it yourself a religion?
Oh, definitely.
Are you? Is it fair to call you a witch? I mean, I don't know that much about.
Yes, I prefer it. But as a matter of fact, I'm black, and to me, to call myself a witch is pretty much, you know, the difference between referring to black people as Negroes or whatever. I don't try to water it down into Wiccan. I just prefer witch. That's just fine. It's not an insult to me. Go ahead if you had another question.
No, the articles I've been reading said several times that you guys don't believe in the devil. Is that true?
Yeah, we tend to believe the devil has been a formation by humans that discredited basically the older pagan beliefs that was a horned god that represented fertility.
Right.
And in order to get people not to follow those beliefs, you know, the horns didn't originally represent anything evil. As I understand it, you know, Moses apparently had a horn at one time or whatever that represented wisdom. Okay, and that again was just a man-made belief to try to discredit those older beliefs. A lot of it was female-based healing or whatever, and when Christianity moved into Western Europe, then, and you know, the power struggle was obvious. That's how the devil began, and that's, you know, the development of that. But we tend to not believe in Satan at all. Satanists to us are reverse Christians.
Reverse Christian.
And you have to, you know, I mean, you kind of have to be a Christian to believe in Satan. We don't worship Satan.
That is a very good point. Satanism, as we know it today, grew out of Christianity. You know, there's other concepts that go back farther, but the Satanism that we're, you know, familiar with now is something that isn't an offshoot, a product of Christianity. It's and of course, y'all aren't Satanists, and we're not Satanists either.
No. and you were talking about how seriously we take it. We have a hell of a lot of fun. Excuse the pun, but we do. Okay, but we do take ourselves seriously in that one of the things we do, we are very connected to a lot of the older religions, the voodoo, what you would call Native American shamanism. Throughout history, we found that most beliefs, there are systems in every society that deal with people who have paranormal experiences. You don't have to put it in the context of a religion. Some of us just find that that just suits our personalities better. Mm-hmm. And what we do, as the first caller said, with healing rituals, etc., we take working on an energy level basically to be the next step. A lot of times in medicine, the cellular theory, then the energy theory. I'm also a nurse. So, we look at a lot of physics, things that we had not realized in the last century. They tend to make a lot of sense in connection with what we do.
Physics does not support a supernatural view of human healing.
Okay, well...
There are a lot of people who say that it does, and they are people who are selling other people a line, because it's just not true.
The book I read tends to, or the book we study, one of the books we study from does, and I'm not saying that every science section does, but one of the things we do is this. And I know you called us a goofy religion, okay?
Yeah, I think they're all goofy.
Okay,
I'm not picking on you.
I know. Well, I understand, and that's your view. One of the things that I tried not to say until now, but this is true. Western history has been white male dominated. And
what does that have to do with anything?
Well, because...
either you can wave your hands over somebody and heal them, or you can't. And it doesn't matter whether there's white males involved in the process or not, or commenting on it. It either works or it doesn't. And it's been shown not to work. It's a nice way of making people think that they feel better, to think happy, but not to actually heal.
I think it's pretty clear at this point that we're not Wiccans and you're not an atheist. We disagree.
I actually was an atheist, and can I finish my point?
Sure.
The point that
I have a question for you though when you finish.
Huh?
I have a question for you though when you finish.
The point I was making was that it has been very popular to very much discredit any ethnic or female views of the planet.
And that doesn't matter. Whether it's popular or not, that's unfortunate if there are real phenomenon that have been rejected because they weren't popular. But the question is, does it work or not?
I did listen to you.
Okay, I just don't want to get sidetracked into all this, recriminations about who dislikes what.
I had a point to make, and I haven't been able to finish yet.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay. I know you're passionate about your beliefs, and so am I, so I was trying to finish.
Yeah, please.
Okay, and what has happened is, because of that point of view, it has been very popular to discredit ethnic views, female views, and our own unique points of relating to our environment. So, because when people don't have an experience that is subjective, admittedly, they do not have that perception. And when people don't have that perception and they happen to be the voices in power, it is very easy then to have those experiences not be validated. And that has been what has happened traditionally in Western society. Carl Jung introduced the concept of, the unconscious to the West. That concept had been there. It's just that when we do archaeological finds or whatever, a lot of times societies have advanced beyond what the archaeologists are able to find and interpret correctly. So we don't know a lot of times what has happened until we get to that stage. Carl Jung introduces something, we think, it's all new. It's not a new concept. We just considered everybody before us to be so backwards, we missed what they were trying to introduce to our society.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. What is it about Wicca that makes it a religion?
Okay. Well...
Good question.
As opposed to other religions, or just say a philosophy or a conclusion or something like that. What is it that makes it a religion?
What is it that makes it a religion? Belief in deity is one. Okay.
So you would say that our subject today is religion. So and we're kind of fighting with what is and what isn't.
Yeah.
Okay. So then you might say that there's some kind of belief in something supernatural that would be required for you to call something a religion. In other words, it might be difficult for you to label somebody that's, say, a humanist as that being their religion. Is that fair?
I think it would be the level to which they organized. Okay, that may, do it. I'm very reluctant not to call somebody's belief a religion if they call it a religion. I'd look at a variety of factors, but I don't always know if they're a religion. Why Wicca is, like I said, is our organization of beliefs. Belief in deity is just one of the characteristics. The organization of it, the entire organizational structure. I think structure probably would be the key factor in whether or not you're a religion.
Okay, what do you think about Bob Barr and Paul Ryrick and the people that are trying to boycott the Army because of the Wicca ceremonies that are being held?
Well, it's like I said to the gentleman earlier when he was telling me, and basically saying physics doesn't support this or whatever. I'm so accustomed to our nation being divided and very much narrow and not accepting of other people's beliefs, regardless of whether, we don't evangelize, okay? We cannot. I have no opinion on what somebody should do religiously. But I am so accustomed to these beliefs, again, being black, but I think of Bob Barr, I can't even say on TV. So I'm accustomed to that in this nation. We find ways to enhance our differences all the time and be controversial and fight instead of enhancing our similarities and respecting other people's beliefs.
Well, part of what I think Jeff wanted to point out was that on this show we're talking about what we think, and our viewpoint is misunderstood and not well known, and we do disagree with Wicca. I mean very clearly.
Yeah,
we reject the supernatural.
Yeah, Jeff's got several questions for you,
and
I appreciate.
I've been taking notes and letting you talk. Man.
It's easier for me to support you, which I do have in the past.
Thank you.
Most,
and if I can just jump in.
But you cannot respect my beliefs.
We support your right to have whatever beliefs you have, just as we support the rights of Christians, even though we kind of poke fun at them the most because they're the biggest religion and they get in our face the most.
And you will eventually poke fun at us as you did today and say very disrespectful things.
We want to make the point that we are not here to try to take away people's rights to have religious beliefs. What we are here to do is to justify our own beliefs to the extent that we can, and to try to keep to put in our 2 cents worth against the idea of turning this into a theocracy.
And I'm saying it's really sad when you need to justify your own beliefs by putting someone else's down, is my point. We are Wiccans. We have a religion, and we don't try to put down atheists at all. I mean, you're perfectly valid, and the work that you do in trying to keep a balance is just fine. We're not putting you down. I support you.
Thank you.
But I appreciate you hanging on all this time. We had no idea we was going to have a Wiccan call in. I really appreciate your time.
If she wants to stay on the line and respond to the things I'm about to say, she may.
All right.
Okay. Now, the thing about atheists is we don't believe in stuff for which there is no evidence. That's like our whole thing.
But no evidence is going to be acceptable to you.
Ma'am,
you just shot down evidence I gave you.
Ma'am?
You wouldn't read the book if I told you the title.
Ma'am?
Yeah, we would. Yeah, we would. Feel free, when he's done, feel free to throw in the
feel
title.
free to give me the title of the book, and I will check it out. Okay, but I have looked deeply into this. I used to work with the UT group called the University Skeptical Society, and these are rationalists who look at the actual evidence behind things to determine whether there's actually anything going on, or what in fact is actually going on. Now, back to what you said before about the idea that white males have suppressed ethnic and female views. This is completely irrelevant to questions of whether something actually works or not. Again, I sympathize with anyone who has been oppressed, but if a person who feels that they are oppressed, but in fact what is going on is they believe something that isn't true, then the question is, can they face the fact that it's not true or not, or raising the question of a conspiracy to suppress their views just confuses the issue. Either you can heal somebody by waving your hands around them, or you can't. Now, you yourself said this was subjective. healing a person's body is not a subjective kind of thing.
No,
if there was a wound,
experiences are
not ma'am,
subjective.
a man-made is my turn. If you want to stay on the line and respond after I'm done, you may.
But I never claimed to heal anybody, is what I'm telling you. You're saying something that I didn't claim. I said my experiences are objective. I never got into an argument with you over what I can wave my hand over anyone and heal them. I
Okay,
don't tell
that's fine.
people that. I told you I'm a nurse. I send people to hospitals.
Ah, okay. Well, I know some of the things that are popular in nursing right now, and unfortunately, there's a lot of horrifyingly silly bunk that's being taught to nurses right now, and a lot of it has been debunked, and yet it's still being embraced, and I don't understand that. In any case, you went back to the issue of non-acceptance. Whether I accept what you say or not is going to depend on whether what you say is actually supported by evidence or not. It's
I'm
not my bias.
I'm asking you to respect it. I did not say accept it.
I will not respect people who tell me that a thing is true when they can't prove it that it is true.
And that's all I'm saying.
Those are beliefs that are not worthy of respect. That's the whole thing that atheism is about.
And that's my whole
we don't
point.
respect that stuff.
And that's my whole point,
Okay.
that we enhance our differences and we cannot respect someone else's right to believe the way they want to believe.
I don't respect Nazis.
Okay.
You know, I don't respect
Because
people
they're
who
harmful
believe
to
stuff that
people.
doesn't happen to actually be true.
Because
That's
they're
just
harmful.
silly.
If we are out harming people, you're right. That is not to be respected. If
What
we're telling
I
somebody
respect
we
is
can-
your right to believe what you believe, so long as you're not harming people.
That's right.
But to respect the beliefs, no, I'm not going to do that.
Okay.
Beliefs that I respect are things I'm also going to believe. Why wouldn't I?
Well, because that's what I mean, and that's what we have as a country. If you don't agree with somebody, we cannot understand the ability to respect somebody that we don't agree with. Whether we, embrace that person's belief or not, they do have their right to believe that way, and they are worthy of respect, of being talked to in a respectful manner, and not get so full of self that we think ourselves are greater than the whole, and that we
this has
can't.
nothing to do with self. See, you always try to find a scapegoat here.
Well, because
you're
you know what?
mad at white males. Now you're mad at me.
Oh,
You
I
think
didn't
that
know
I'm
I'm
saying
mad at
these
you.
things because
You
I have
are
a
a white
bias
male,
against
Jeff.
you.
I'm not
That
saying
has,
I'm mad
that
at
has
you, but
nothing
I'm
to do
saying-
with it.
I'm saying as a
If you
psychiatric
make a
nurse,
claim,
you're pretty
prove that
much-
it's true. If you can't prove that it's true, rationalists like us aren't going to believe you.
I'm saying
and
as
that's
a
just the way it
psychiatric
is.
nurse, you're what we call someone who's very full of themselves. You think very highly of yourself and your opinion to the exclusion of anyone else's opinion. And you just are very disrespectful to the point where you just cannot understand.
But it
that
doesn't matter
somebody-
what my attitude is. If you
Yes, it
cannot
is.
prove that the things you believe are true, then you are believing stuff that you have no evidence
And
of.
it's one of superiority. If you don't believe the way I believe, you're not
It has
worthy
nothing
of
to do with
respect.
superiority.
You
It has
said-
to do with, common sense.
You said you can only respect people who believe the way you believe.
No, I said that
You're not gonna
beliefs that make sense, beliefs that are supported by evidence, are things I will also believe.
Right.
And stuff that is not supported by evidence is stuff that nobody should believe
And
because
so
it's
if
dumb,
you
it's
don't
silly.
believe it, you don't respect it.
Of course not.
Right. And
Why?
so-
Why? I mean, do you respect things that you think are silly and dumb?
Mm-hmm.
You do.
If I
That's
don't-
what's wrong with the state of knowledge and education in this
Okay.
country.
Yeah, I don't agree with atheists per se. I'm a deist, but I do respect you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
I really
wanna
appreciate
say
you hanging
that
on. Yeah.
I appreciate your call, and you've answered some important questions with us. And
I appreciate you because you were very respectful of us. And the
Thank you.
two of you, thank you very much.
well, okay.
I'm respectful of you, ma'am, but I'm not respectful of the things you believe because they're probably not true.
Sometimes it's hard to make the distinction here because we talk a lot about ideas.
Right.
And there's some ideas that frankly we're very open about attacking because that's what we do here. We're talking about what ideas we think are important and what
And we don't
ones
mind
we
a
think are
challenge.
true.
We don't mind you challenging what we believe and saying
Okay.
you don't believe in it. That's fine. It's the attitude you come off with. And when you start calling names and calling people silly and goofy and stuff, that's just kind of, to me, a very disrespectful attitude. I don't call you names.
Okay, I appreciate
Okay.
it, and I appreciate
Thank
your
you.
call very much.
Thank you.
You have a great week.
You
And
too.
call again, please.
I'm sure she will.
All right. And, that was quite totally unplanned there. Had a
Yeah,
Wiccan
I'm
call
sorry.
in. Yeah, that was great.
Well, we learned a little bit about religion. We
Yes.
learned a little bit about Wicca. I didn't.
And
I
we learned
didn't
a lot
get
about
chance
atheism.
to-
Oh, sorry.
I didn't get a chance though. I was going to ask her about the dancing naked in the woods. I mean, I keep hearing that, and I've heard that. Maybe that's something that's kind of made up. I don't know. I just don't know about that kind of stuff. But I guess they do. They do fun things. Atheists do that too.
Atheists
Oh,
dance
man.
naked in the woods too. Okay, let's go on down to John.
Hi.
Good morning, John.
Hi, John.
Good morning. Say, I just want a couple statements and then one question.
Sure.
First of all, I want to tell you, even though I'm a complete Christian, I absolutely love your program because I think that it really gives people a lot of things to think about, and it brings up really good questions. And I totally respect your beliefs, but I do have some questions.
Sure.
For you.
We'll try our best.
Okay. So you don't believe in God at all?
No.
So you don't believe in there's a devil as well?
No.
Correct.
Because I hear that I hear you talking about like God and people that believe in God, but I don't hear you talking about like Satanists and people.
It's
who
all
believe
part
in
of the
Satanism.
same
talking
thing.
to that Wiccan. I think I made it clear what I thought about Wicca.
There's anything that you would call a god, like a supernatural being, whatever name it is. We don't accept the existence of any of them.
And
Anything supernatural, any supernatural event, occurrence.
Well, how do you believe then life? Pardon me for interrupting. How do you believe that life began on Earth?
Through natural processes.
Such as, do you think like lightning struck like primordial soup and like life just began that way, something like that?
Something like that.
So, yeah, something.
Okay,
I mean,
well,
What else what else is there evidence for?
Well,
there's some incredibly
I
smart
was thinking
people.
about that last night, and because I was thinking about that, and lightning strikes around the Earth all the time, and why wouldn't life just spring up spontaneously?
Well,
all the time
actually,
if
it
that
might
was
be, but it would be destroyed immediately by already existent life forms.
There's
wouldn't
that, and also the conditions on the Earth now are very different than they were
Yeah.
originally.
Yeah.
Well, you
A
have
lot
to
of the
think-
early
yeah.
life forms, oxygen was poisonous to them. And it may be that the kinds of life you get from natural processes are things that are poisoned by oxygen, and they just immediately fall apart, and so it can't start again.
And,
I
and
think
the real point here is that if you want to know, could this really happen, or under what circumstances, or the way to do is look, is do research. It's not make something up. Is that fair?
Well, to a certain point it is, but I think where
No,
y'all,
it's fair. That's the way to do it.
Well, I think where probably we would disagree in the terms of is that I believe that whereas man builds, I believe that God creates, and I really do believe there's a difference
Okay.
there in the terms of like man can't build a tree, God can build zillions of them, and so I guess it just boils down to a question of faith, whether you have it or whether you don't have it.
I don't want to insult somebody that obviously enjoys watching the show, but we kind of know we've got a lot of ideas about how a tree grows. I mean, there's not you really don't need a magician. If you take an acorn and put it in the ground under the right circumstances, gosh, you'll get an oak tree.
But if you put an acorn in a total vacuum,
Yeah?
if you put nothing in a total vacuum and grow a tree, then you have really performed a miracle. And God has obviously performed miracles because there's millions of trees out there. And that's basically what he did. He took
The
something,
Earth
he
is
took
not a
nothing and
vacuum.
created something from it.
The Earth is not a vacuum.
At one point, the entire universe
And
was
life
a
didn't
vacuum.
start with a fully formed acorn. And, there's a lot of things wrong with your analogy there.
Yeah, and you make the claim that he
I
can.
can't.
I'm sorry. You make the claim that he made millions of trees or whatever. You can't even prove that he made one tree.
Well, I think if you go outside and look out the window, you can see.
There are
millions of
trees.
There are.
That's not
can't
under
argue with
dispute.
that. There are millions of trees.
But somebody made those trees. Those trees.
Why does there need to have been
no.
a somebody? That's where we disagree. I mean, we see no evidence that there was a somebody involved. Clearly, something was going on that's different from what happens day to day now, but that can be accounted for by the different conditions on the Earth during its early formation, which we have evidence of that the conditions were different. We still don't know exactly how it happened. One day we'll figure it out, and you're going to have to change your point of view. But until now, you're safe enough because we haven't got the exact formula, exactly what happened to make life start.
Yeah.
But that's being investigated. Eventually, it'll be figured out, and you'll have to change your point of view. Then I hope you're ready to do that.
Well, yeah,
But did you see how
go ahead. I'm
you
sorry.
see how weak of an argument that is? Just because there's a tree, there's God. How do you make that leap? I don't understand that.
Well, because I guess again, like I say, it all boils down to whether you have faith or you don't, and obviously y'all don't have it, and I totally respect your right not to have faith. I mean, I'm not one of these people that like voice my religion on other people. Absolutely, I'm just calling to let y'all know that I do like. I watch your show a lot of times before I go to church. And I know that sounds weird, but I do because it does. You all talk about things that I think are relevant and that make me think. Even
Okay.
though I disagree with you, it makes me think, and I like the
What about today's question? What is religion? Do you consider the Wiccans a religion?
Well, no, I would say anything. Wiccans are people that believe in Satan, or that like worship Satan.
No, they
I
did.
don't
We
know.
just
I didn't
listened
see
to the
first
woman
part.
that
What
we
are
had
Wiccans?
on.
I don't know what they are.
They don't
Okay.
believe in the devil.
It's
They're
just like a nature. What would you
Mother
call it?
Nature, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of a.
Or do you assume that any god anybody worships that isn't the same god as yours must be Satan?
No, absolutely not.
Okay, that's good.
Then
I
there
think
are
all
religions that
religions
worships
are
gods
different.
other than yours.
I think all religions are different paths to the same Father. That
Then why are they killing each other?
well, I'm not killing anybody, and I can't speak to people that are. I mean, all I'm saying is that I have my own personal set of beliefs, and I do believe, that Jesus walked the earth, and I believe that He died for our sins, and
Okay.
that I believe that was the God's greatest gift to all of us is that He gave His only begotten Son so that we could be forgiven for our sins that we create here on earth, and I truly believe that in my heart. But again, that's my belief system, and I just want to call it.
Well, I appreciate you being open-minded, and
Yeah, thanks for watching the show.
And sometime I'm going to come down to the place where y'all meet, and
Yes.
we're going to sit down and visit. Okay.
all right. That reminds me. Once we're done here, we head down to the Hot Jumble Bakery.
We're
Which
inviting Christians to the
No, he
bagel
said
shop now?
I'm not inviting him. I'm just reminding everybody where we do meet. Anybody's welcome to come in there. We've already passed the point whether or not there's a God or not. So we're not down there
Yeah,
debating.
please don't come down there and try to
debate
convert us
it,
and stuff.
yeah.
If you want that,
we
call
mainly
the show.
don't even talk about that a lot of times. I mean,
Right,
We're
we-
kind of all on the same page.
Yes.
Can I respond to that?
Yeah, go right ahead.
I just want to, once again, twice in as many calls, the question of respecting rights has come up. And this guy said that he respected our right not to have faith. That so misses the point that, I don't know what to do with that. Faith is either a sensible way of figuring stuff out or it's not, right? If it's a sensible way, go ahead and respect that. But if it's not a sensible way, don't respect that. Don't respect silly approaches to figuring stuff out. You wouldn't respect a guy that poured mud in his automobile engine to get his car to run. It doesn't make any sense. And the idea that somehow, everybody can be as stupid and goofy and confused as possible, and you still have to respect them, is just wrong. Think about what is a smart way to think, and respect ways of thinking that are intelligent, and don't respect ways of thinking that are not intelligent. It doesn't make any sense.
All right. And we have a bunch of callers this morning.
Okay.
Oh, do you have something? I'm sorry. Go
before
right
we
ahead,
move
Don.
on, yeah.
Go right ahead.
And I agree that one thing we share with the fundamentalists is that we think these ideas are important, and it's not like aliens. As far as aliens, I don't care. Nothing hangs on it. There are, there aren't. We'll find out. As far as these ideas about the universe and how we should think about the universe, these are important ideas, and things do hang on them. Your whole view of your own life and existence, you look at them much different ways if you operate on a faith basis versus reason based. It's important. We need to talk about these ideas.
All right. Let's go back to the phones here. We have Kent.
Morning.
Good morning, Kent.
I like your all's logical arguments and the way that you present your material in the considerate way you do without the ranting and raving of a lot of other people.
Oh, we tried to.
Oh, we can rant. We can rant.
Yeah,
But
you should have seen me a couple of weeks ago.
but I'm sure you're aware of this. If you look back in history to the beginning of civilization 25,000 years ago or whenever you decide to make that point, that society has been ruled and controlled by two types of people: the kings, who have controlled by brute force over the physical body, and then the priests, who are the church or whatever organized religion, by controlling man's beliefs and minds for their own gain. And this is primarily your objection, isn't it?
That's
yeah.
one. Yeah.
Okay.
Our basic objection to most of the organized religions that we have come in contact with is they're based on things that are not true, that we find untrue.
So, and I agree with that, and I agree that the truth is what works,
All right.
and the
There you
truth
go.
is what can be proved.
All right.
However, a lot of the problem in communication between your point of view and all these other points of view that people call in is the lack of depth of the understanding of concepts.
Sure.
Because when you get into words, and for instance, if you were to take 100 people and put them in a room, and have them each write down a one-sentence description of a table, you'd get 100 different descriptions for the one-word table.
Exactly.
So when you try to go in there and talk about things like faith or God, perhaps you're in more agreement than you think you are. It's just the misunderstandings of the words that are causing this diversity.
Well, I mean, certainly there's some of that going on. I mean, this talk show format is not, this call-in format is not the best way to really get deeply into these issues. You know, I mean, the Christians, most of the Christians that call in think that faith is a valid way of knowing about truths, and we don't. And there's no greater depth of understanding of the term faith that's going to get us to agree, you know, that we both think it's the same thing.
Let me ask you this. Do you have faith that if you sit in that chair, you're not going to fall on the floor?
I have not.
I have an experience that sitting on chairs generally works. And if there are, of course, different definitions of faith, but if I had to use the word faith, what I would mean by that was, you know, experience. Many experiences of dealing with things and building up a sense that there is a very high % chance that this is reliable.
So you're talking about
which is
science.
not the same as religious faith.
You're talking about science, more or less, those things that can be predicted with certainty due to past experience.
Well, we have
with
personal
high-
experiences in our lives.
Things that can be predicted with very high
science.
reliability.
Well, that's the sort of
Certainty is a
faith,
word
isn't it?
that, you know, that has its own problems.
That's faith in a sense, that you have faith that these things in the material world will indeed happen.
Sure,
because they
but that
happened
is
before.
different from what Christians mean.
Right, well, they're talking about some kind of blind faith in a myth, and this is what you object to.
They wouldn't put it that way,
Right.
but they do think that the sense they have that what they believe is true counts as, they call that faith, and they think that that is a valid indication that what they believe is true.
Now, why is it they have that point of view? Why do they have this faith? Is it because their minds have been unscrewed and filled up with all this garbage that...
That's kind of a harsh way to put it, but
it's the most natural thing in the world. People, you know, people don't like to be wrong. They want to think that the things they think are accurate.
there is a heavy
It's
cultural
entirely
bias
natural.
for adopting some sort of religion.
And
or-
in my
or
opinion,
faith.
it goes back all the way to evolutionary traits or whatever. When thousands of years ago, when we first started, somehow the vanity of man said that he was the top place and that all this was for him, and for him to do that, he had to have a higher being that put him in that position. So, you know, I think it goes back to the roots of our...
And they call the higher being God.
Yeah, I think it goes back farther than that. I think it goes back to like, you know, okay, I'm a caveman, I'm toting my spear around in the plains, and yesterday I saw that there was water in a pool over by yonder tree, and I want there to be water in that pool over by yonder tree again. It feels good for me to think that I know this thing, and so I go over there and I look, and that's better if you have like dumb, you know, pre-hominid guys running around trying to survive. That's better than not having any memory of stuff at all. But it's not as good as carefully thinking about things and understanding that like stuff changes, that sometimes things that you thought you saw weren't what you thought they were. You know, there's a lot more refinement you can put on top of that thinking.
Why don't you just call that God? Wouldn't that be a God in your sense? Whatever it is you believe in that makes these things work is God to you?
I mean, at that point, you've redefined God into something that's completely meaningless.
Well, not
and
really.
That's not what Christians mean. They
Not
think
really.
there's some guy.
Because how did the universe happen? Did it happen by chance?
That until we have evidence that it happened some way other than chance, other stuff happens by chance, the chance of working through natural laws. So the most sensible thing to assume at this point is that the universe happened by chance working through natural laws.
Okay,
The thing that we know, the thing that we are pretty clear on is that it happened, that it got it. Whatever happened,
that's not in dispute.
It's here. It did happen, and the thing to do at that point, if you want to know more, is to look at it. Is to observe it. Observe it different ways and see how the different facts fit together.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm more or less using the Socratic method here with you guys.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is that whatever you said right there, why not just make that God? Why not redefine God and say that's God? So then you guys are really in agreement. You just have different points of view into the truth.
one possible
Except
scenario.
that there is no evidence that Christians are figuring out what they want to believe by carefully looking at the details of how the universe works. Every indication that Christians get their beliefs by interpreting a holy book, which is not at all the same thing.
Yeah,
So again, it boils down to something different, to different approaches to knowledge.
And you brought up an excellent point that coincides with how you started the whole thing is if you ask 100 people their definition of God, you're going to get 100 different definitions.
Exactly. So there's a certain point at which the concepts break down and no longer convey the truth, and you have to transcend the concepts really to get to a higher level of truth, because at best, even the most articulate arrangement of concepts is inaccurate.
Right.
Sure.
Ed, I appreciate your input. We got a bunch of other callers.
Take care.
All right, you have
Thanks
a great
for calling.
week.
That was a darn good call. I like that guy.
Sounds like an interesting guy.
Yeah.
Even if we don't agree, we like it when smart people call in that are thinking carefully about things and not just taking stuff for granted.
All right. Troy?
Hey.
Good morning.
How you doing?
Excellent.
Hey, I'm just flipping around and just happened to land on y'all's show.
First time you've seen it?
I think I flipped around a couple more times, like maybe a month or two earlier, and decided to call in this time.
Well,
Okay, thanks for calling.
I got one question to ask y'all.
Sure. Okay.
First, I got to set it up.
Okay.
Y'all look comfortable this morning.
Thank you.
All right. Got coffee and got reading material, got a round table. Man, got a tax base that supports the program. You get your views out there, right? Everything's good to go?
Close.
Okay. Now, let's change the scenario a little bit.
Okay.
You're in a foxhole in World War II and the bullets are flying. You going to have the same opinion?
Yeah.
If you mean about atheism, yes.
Well, I was in the military and I never found any atheists in foxholes. It's just interesting to me about how people change, you know, once they get put into a different situation.
We've got a guy that has experienced some military conflicts operating camera one over here.
Yeah?
He'll tell you that you're wrong.
Well,
Yeah.
all
Okay.
right.
Walk on camera for just a second. Let's show you.
You guys
Let's
want to?
flip over to him.
Here he
He's
comes.
going to walk on camera
Where's
so
he
you can
at?
see an atheist who's been in a foxhole.
All right.
Or something similar. Yeah, my point, sir, would be that atheists are hard to find in general.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Yeah, basically
they're,
so.
we pretty much
down there where I
keep our
can see
views to
you.
ourselves. Sir, we pretty much keep our views to ourselves because we are widely despised, and we
I
don't
don't
go around
despise
talking
you.
about our opinions about stuff very often. And you know, this show is a little group of us trying to change that a little bit. Maybe it'll be more common to notice atheists in foxholes when atheists feel a little safer expressing their views.
Now, let me speak to the gentleman right there, the cameraman. How old are you?
I'm 39.
39.
Yep.
39 years old.
Okay.
Now,
you
what
were
did
asking
you-
about atheists in foxholes.
No.
Oh, you don't want to hear about that.
What conflict did you serve in?
Say again?
What conflict did you serve in?
Well, I'll tell you. I was an
39's too young for Nam.
Wait a minute, I'm talking to you. I was 12 years old when I was an atheist, and I was in the British Army in Northern Ireland. And also in 1990, I was in the U.S. Army serving in Iraq.
Now, you were in Northern Ireland.
I was in Northern Ireland when I was with the British Army for 4 years. And
That
then,
wasn't when you were 12 years old.
No.
Okay.
No, I joined the British Army at 16.
Uh-huh.
And then in 1980, I come over here, emigrated over here, and joined the U.S. Army, and was in that for 12 years.
You joined the United States Army as a green card holder.
Right, and you can do that.
Yes.
And you can get your citizenship while you're in the U.S. Army.
Yes, you can.
And secondly, I was in armor, and I was with 1st Cav out of Fort Hood in Persian Gulf, and we was chasing the Republican Guard.
Right. Yes. Familiar with the 1st Cav.
Okay.
All right. Well,
So-
I'll say you're the exception to the rule.
Oh no.
He's not the only exception, sir. I have read.
My brother. Hold on. My brother was in the British Navy as a Harrier fighter pilot, and he served in the Falkland Islands.
Well, the chasing of the Republican Guard, that wasn't all that difficult. You know, that was
okay. So your
doesn't
strategy
matter.
now
It
is
doesn't matter. So I'll tell
is
you-
going to be to downplay the seriousness of this guy's military
no,
experience.
not at all. I'm saying the situation never added up to bullets flying in a pocket.
We've
hold
got
on a
another
minute.
guy in the group.
When I was in
We've got
Northern
another guy
Ireland-
in the group who served in Nam, who doesn't happen to be in the studio, but we'll try to get him on the show for you in future.
Hey, get him on when you get a chance.
When I was in Northern Ireland, sir, I was stabbed after there was a pub brawl between Protestants and Catholics. So I do know about conflict.
And I've spoken with many atheists who have been in automobile
Thanks, Howard.
accidents, who have been in buildings on fire, who've been in all kinds of dangerous situations, and the last thing, believe me, the last thing on their mind is, hey, you know, if I just stop trying to save myself and just put my faith in God, maybe that'll increase my chances. No, the guy in the automobile accident is thinking, I gotta steer my car the way that I won't get crushed. And the guy who's in the burning building is thinking, I gotta find a way, like out one of these windows and leap in somewhere where that's not gonna kill me.
Well, do you
They're
think
thinking
that's
about
what
real
any
ways of
free
surviving. They
thinking-
are not putting their faith in any supernatural power.
Now wait a minute here.
Okay,
I'm just relating to you what I have heard from other atheists,
me
of whom I
address this.
presumably have talked to a lot more than you.
believe in Christ myself.
Yeah,
and if
I mean, you
I'm
don't
in a
know any
burning
atheists. You haven't
building,
talked to any atheists.
I'm
an
certainly
atheist.
not
In
gonna put my
1974,
faith-
I'm on a ship, and we're doing sea trials, and the executive officer comes over, the 1MC, and says, this is no drill. There's a fire in the after ammunition magazine. And we kind of looked at one another, and we thought we were goners. Because you know how serious that is. We just been to this little place in Pearl Harbor, and we had loaded on ammunition all day long. My ship was full of explosives, and they tell me there's a fire in the down where the big bullets are. and that, I tell you what, that is you know, like the hair stands up on the back of my neck when I talk about it. It was that frightening, and I never once thought about, oh well, I need to get down on my knees and pray or something.
That's not what it's all
just didn't
about,
occur to me.
gentlemen.
I'm sorry?
That's not what it's all about.
Okay, let me tell you,
That ain't what it's all about. You're
foxholes
confusing the issue
and
now.
there's the bullets
you think
flying
that
around,
if
the
somebody's
people in
going to
those
lay
foxholes that
down
are
and just
praying
let
so
stuff
hard,
happen to them?
that are praying so hard, are wanting desperately to live.
No,
are
you
wanting
don't give people
desperately to
credit
live.
that
That's
have
why
belief.
I say there's no Christians in foxholes. If you know that there's heaven on the other side, what's the big deal?
That's right. That's right. That's why I'm saying I've seen people's beliefs change, you know?
Okay.
Let me just.
Is fear a good reason to change your beliefs, sir?
Huh?
Is fear a good reason to change what you believe?
I don't believe so. I do not
Oh, good.
believe so.
Okay, good.
Let me just.
I'm glad you say that. So when you have seen people go from atheists to Christians in foxholes, what you have seen is you've seen them
Now
change
you
their beliefs for a
assume that
bad reason.
No. You question why people believe stuff. My question to you is the original one. If you were put in a foxhole and the bullets are flying,
Yeah?
are you gonna say, please help me, God?
No.
Anytime? There we go.
I don't care
There
if
you
the
go.
guy.
You just answered the question. That's what I wanted to know.
Okay, we gotta go.
Thanks for calling.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Howard, quickly. Howard.
Yeah, I just want to say.
This is Howard King, the gentleman that was on camera just a minute
if he
ago.
remembers, I was doing basic in Fort Knox, Kentucky, and if he remembers, they used to make troops go to church on Sundays, and if you didn't go to church on Sundays, you would have to do extra duty. So basically, the U.S. Army is more or less dictating to you that you've got to go to church or you can do extra duty, and it's usually not very good stuff. It's like cleaning up trash cans or the kitchen or whatever. So
Exactly.
so basically, you know, under those circumstances, I would go to the church, but I would just sit there and just do nothing.
Nap. Go take a nap or something.
Yeah.
All right, thanks a lot, Howard. All right, let's go to Joe. Joe, sorry about that.
Good morning.
Yeah, it's been
Morning, Joe.
Hey, talking about atheists and foxholes, I just have to comment.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, when Christians or believers in general say that there are no atheists in foxholes, I don't think they really intend to insult us. I think they're trying to make a point about religious belief, and what they do and what they don't realize is that is an insult. Is there are lots of atheists who have served in combat. One comes right to mind, Spike Tyson,
There you go.
good friend of mine.
First Division.
Yeah, he was in Vietnam, and he spent just about a year there, and he was in the first cav.
Excellent.
He drove an APC, Armored Personnel Carrier, and he came out of there with multiple Purple Hearts, the entire time was an avowed atheist. In fact, just about everybody in his squad was an atheist. And when the chaplain came around, this is an interesting story, people would tell him, hey, you know, you probably shouldn't mess with that Spike Tyson over there. And the chaplain, of course, would say, oh, no, it's no problem. I'm sure he's a believer deep down. I'll go talk to him. And come to find out, in a rude way, that he's not. Spike, if you know him real well, he's a guy who doesn't fool around when he talks about atheism.
All right.
And but this man served honorably and was honorably discharged. In fact, has recently had some physical problems due to his time there. In fact, well, he's one of those guys that got a lot of Agent Orange sprayed all over them, and he's got some problems from that now. But never once had a need or an inclination to get down and pray to anything.
Exactly.
In fact, when there were other people doing that sort of thing around him and his squad pretty much just laughed and moved on and made the best of things, did whatever they could to survive. But on to your topic then, about Wiccans. I think if a group like the Wiccans or the Satanists or Christians want to call themselves religious or a religious group or a religion, then I think we ought to just respect their wishes and call them a religion. But a lot of people don't want to be called a religion. In fact, to some of them, it's kind of an insult. I would say it's offensive to me when someone calls atheism a religion.
Yes.
Especially since they usually don't know me or atheism in the beginning.
Right.
But there was one other thing when a couple weeks ago, a caller talked about worshiping God, and there was something I wanted to comment on that, but I didn't get a chance to. Any being that needs or demands worship is automatically undeserving of worship, in my opinion. They render themselves that way, and when you go to worship something, it's kind of it's backwards. You know, you're worshiping something that proves itself unworthy of worship. That's how I think about it. So this God idea, it's kind of flawed for that reason. But there was one other thing also, and I hate to take up too much time here, but there's a man in Glenside, Pennsylvania named Stephen Reynolds who has released a translation of the book of John from the Bible that says Jesus turned water into a non-alcoholic grape juice instead of wine. And he's actually published something called the Holy Bible, a purified translation of the Gospel of John. And he has distributed it to about 39,000 ministers all across the United States of America. And in that book, he argues that the Greek translation, the ancient Greek word vinos, usually translated as wine, is, quote, neutral to alcoholic content, unquote. And there are actually people in the Southern Baptist Church, Southern Baptist ministers are actually skeptical about this idea because if you know them, they only have grape juice at their masses. Well, one of them, the ministers, didn't like the idea. He said, quote, I don't think it was grape juice, not made by Welch's anyway. And then he went on to say, another one here from Forest Hill Baptist Church, a minister said, he takes the word wine at face value. He says, quote, I'm not going to destroy what the Scripture's saying, unquote, in that respect. Now, there are some groups that are in favor of the idea. In fact, his son, Mr. Ted Rosenwasser, has said that he would like to, he's going to try to publish a purified version of the Bible. And that will be alcohol-free. Now, we need to remember there are an estimated 230 references to wine in the Bible.
Yes. And drunkenness and everything else, yeah.
Yeah, if they intend on publishing a wine-free or alcohol-free version of the Bible, that'd take quite a bit of work.
And what amazes me is that this kind of stuff is going on all the time. There's all these different versions, all these different translations going on, and yet there are people out there who will keep trying to tell you that this is, oh no, this is still exactly the literal Word of God.
Right. Well,
and clearly people are, even Christians, are quite willing to go in there and tinker.
And I was thinking, of course it was real wine. Would grape juice bring joy to a wedding feast? No. Even back then, people considered getting trashed to be an integral part of feasting. I mean, I'm no history professor, but it seems to me that water would be preferable to grape juice with no alcohol. I can see wedding guests throwing fruit at Jesus for forgetting to miraculously include alcohol in the mix. This is just another case of modern Christian morality trying to change history, whatever kind of
trying to make it politically correct there. That's what it sounds like.
And with about 230 references to wine in the Bible, I think these people obviously like to drink real wine, complete with alcohol. And if they preferred grape juice, there wouldn't be so much drunkenness followed in the Bible stories, as there's a great deal of drunkenness in the Bible, Noah alone, hey. And but if they had a purified version of the Bible, it would probably be a pamphlet. Anyway.
Thanks, Joe. Let me ask you a question real quick.
Yeah.
We're as you know, we're talking about religion and kicking around some different definitions and stuff. What do you think about atheists or non-theistic people that say they have a religion, whether it's atheism or humanism or something like that? Does that trouble you?
Well, I really haven't found any people who call themselves atheists who say they have a religion.
North Texas Church of Free Thought.
Well, I haven't found that Mr. Gorski or Sullivan have called themselves atheists. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I haven't looked very far.
Yeah, they do.
Oh, they do?
Yeah.
Well,
They were on. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I don't know. I don't really want to criticize them and their effort over there because, we're all basically on the same side, but semantics can get in the way, and who wants to argue with their own people? But I don't know. I wouldn't want to attend a church. I suppose it's probably not a church by my definition.
There you go.
I would love to attend one of their services, and I hear they do some really good things over there.
Amanda and I went there last week.
Great.
And I asked Amanda this morning, I said, think back, did that feel like church to you? And she stopped for a moment and thought and said, no, because I wasn't bored out of my mind.
Right. Well, and did they give you a chance to talk back or ask questions?
No, it was like a presentation of entertainment and information.
Okay.
It was like that.
Well, see, then I would call that a big difference from what I would consider church.
Right.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I did not enjoy
It's an interesting
church.
experiment.
Yeah, I did not enjoy church at all.
Yeah.
No, and but nowadays, there's a whole lot of argument on this particular issue, and I would say that it takes a lot of guts to publicly call yourself an atheist. I have, and I do every day, and I'm proud of it. But there's a lot of backlash waiting for people, if you come out publicly and say these things. And I think that a lot of religious people forget that.
Yeah, it occurs to me there might be another explanation for these people that say there aren't any atheists in foxholes. It's because the people saying that are Christians, and they were in a foxhole with a gun next to a guy who had a choice to either say that they were an atheist or not.
There you go.
Would you like for me to put you on hold, Joe? Or?
Yeah, I'd love to listen.
Okay, because you've been on hold for a while. I really appreciate it.
Great, thanks a lot.
All right, you have a great week.
Yeah.
Can I read a quick thing from the Chronicle here?
Sure.
There's a whole section, latest religious messages, and but there was this one particular one I wanted to read. 10 days apart, in April, Britain's Advertising Standards Authority and the official newspaper of the Catholic Archdiocese of Cincinnati, Ohio, issued rulings that miracle and prayer advertisements were deceptive and could no longer be published under their auspices. The British organization's spokesman said a church advertising miracles would have to provide proof, quote, just like a company that makes washing powder, unquote. And the Cincinnati newspaper banned ads thanking particular saints for answering their prayers. And I thought that was nice. That was nice. Churches advertising miracles have to provide proof, just like any other product.
Fantastic. All right, let's go. We've got a bunch of callers here. Let's go to David.
Yeah, I was wondering. You talked about going to your friend's church or at the atheist church. I was just wondering, did they pass a collection plate?
No.
No, they didn't.
They didn't? Well,
no.
then I guess it wasn't a church.
Well,
I'm sure you found on your seat they give you little envelopes.
Yes, they do pass around like little receipts you can use to make donations if you want to, but they don't actually collect the money right there. They also, one of their announcements at the service I went to was that they had arranged that for people who want to donate a set amount of money to the organization per month, could set that up as like an automatic deduction. So they have means of collecting their cash, but they don't do it. They don't like stop and play the soft music and pass the tray around and have you get to see how much the next guy puts in. They don't have any of that.
What I was calling about, my main question is, it seems like, with God, it seems like God is a big blanket statement for a whole lot of things, and I'm wondering maybe you can more easily break down the argument if you break down what little aspects of God people throw into it. Maybe if I don't know if I said that.
Well, they don't throw any aspects of God into the Church of Free Thought.
Well, not that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about religion in general. I'm saying, God is to deal with the fear of dying. God is to deal with the loss of life and things that can't be explained. You just have to say, oh, well, it's God's will, just to kind of blanket it over. Mm-hmm. And, it seems like in my experience that people who have a lot of heartache and people who have a lot of bad things happen to them tend to believe in God because, I don't know, as an atheist, I think I've had it pretty easy and haven't had anything really bad happen to me where I have to, or I can't accept it on my own that the things that have happened just have happened, and there's no recourse for it. It's just simple loss, and
Well,
all the blanket statements. What kind of stock do people put in God? How many different little things do people pigeonhole in the box marked God?
All right. But I'd like to remind all the atheists down there, we meet at the Hot Jumble Bakery. Once we leave here, it's down at West 5th and Lavaca, and you're shaking your head at me like, oh, okay, I thought they were saying something else.
Right after the show.
Right after the show.
All right.
And if anybody has a comment they want to pass on to us, or if they want to get in touch with the organization, please give us a call at 371-2911. You brought up a lot of interesting points. One of which I don't know if this was exactly what you were saying, but it occurs to me after listening to you that there's a lot of religious things that are kind of like just expressions that are just part of our everyday speech. And I've even heard atheists use stuff like that. A real common one is "bless you" when somebody sneezes, or "oh my God" when something is just hard to understand, or something like that. And with people that are let's say more still part of the faith-based culture or religious, let's say, you get when there's a tragedy, you get the typical thing you're kind of taught to say is, I'll pray for you, which for for us, I don't even know how to take that. It's kind of like, well, that's a funny thing to say to an atheist, but there's lots of ways that this is used or spoken of in our culture, which really they don't really have a lot of concrete meaning. Like when you were talking about something being will of God, that could, it's I know the sense that it's meant, but if you really think about it, it's kind of absurd.
You know what I say to people that say they'll pray for me? I say, why are you using my misfortune as an opportunity to pass yourself off as somebody who has the special power to get this cosmic being to solve my problems for me? It's like, that has nothing to do with my situation.
I was talking to a bunch of Baptist friends of mine a couple years ago, and it really took them for a loop when I was like, guys, I really don't think there is a God at all. I mean, you look around and it doesn't add up. I mean, you're the same as a dog pretty much. You're a little different. We can talk and we can use our hands, but for the most part, we're all pretty much the same. And I think of it, dog dies, we die. Same thing. Yeah. But I was talking to them, and I said, we were having a religious discussion, and they consider themselves religious guys, and they finally said, look, man, it's easy. It's easy not to believe in God. We're doing the hard thing. It's easier not to believe in God. Yes. And I just sat there and let them stew in it, and all three of them just got scared all at once and started, going back into the religion and saying, going back into it, because it's a lot to do with fear. A lot to do with fear and things people don't understand. And if you don't believe in God, then you won't be whole, and you won't go to heaven. It's the whole thing. Screw it.
I appreciate your call.
No problem.
You have a great week. Let's go on down to...
There's another guy I would like to meet.
Yeah. Rachel.
Hello.
Good morning.
Hi, Rachel.
Where to start? It was great flipping channels and all these church shows and finding y'all. I've been on since somewhere late in the Wicca Woman Calling.
Uh-huh.
And I guess, I don't know what she said before I got on, but it sounded like maybe she did some male bashing or implied that. And
no, she was talking about how our culture has been dominated by white males, and which for Western culture, she may have had a point. Jeff's point was that as far as the truth or falsehood of Wicca, doesn't make any difference.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But there's... yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, ma'am. You had a question?
Oh, actually, it was just a side comment before I got into more important stuff, that I'm a raging feminist, but I know that men are good through and through.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, don't make that blanket statement either.
Men are good.
There are men that are not good, and there are women that are not good.
I couldn't just leave it at that. we've all of us have gotten hurt somewhere along the line, and sometimes we acted out inappropriately, but that doesn't mean that anyone's bad.
Okay.
Inherently.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. My brain's just been spinning. I was lucky to grow up with parents who raised me with the respect that children should figure out what they believe in instead of be brainwashed all through their childhood when they're vulnerable.
That's wonderful.
My sisters and I are very grateful of that, and she's raising her children that way. So they encouraged me to visit synagogue, temple, catechism, anything, and I explored a lot and been through a lot. Was a born-again Christian for a while, was Wiccan for a while, but I just keep having to come back to what makes sense, and then I don't want to believe in something that's not true just because I'm scared.
What do you call yourself now?
I would say that I'm an atheist that occasionally gets confused by the overwhelming, rest of the stuff out there.
Yeah. For lots of atheists have gone through things like that.
Sure.
We are very inquisitive about what else is out there. And I guess a lot of us go through a stage where you have to kind of try stuff on. Are you familiar with that? That you kind of call yourself an agnostic and see how that feels.
Yeah, I did all that. And Christian, I think that we know more because we've gone ahead and gotten deeply into other things. But after a while, it just didn't make sense. And
well, what I think is really good for us, for people like you and me, is to associate with others of like mind. I think it's good for us to meet each other and sit down and drink a cup of coffee together and talk about how we feel about different things.
Yeah,
it's good. There's a lot of things that happen in church. The North Texas people are right about this. There are a lot of things that happen in church that are positive, that have nothing to do with religion. People putting their arms around you when you have a loss. That's great. Or people feeling good about your successes.
I saw something bizarre on the internet the other day that if there wasn't religion, we wouldn't have morals. I thought that was appalling.
Yeah, that one again.
That one's ugly.
We've done whole shows on that.
Yeah, and we'll probably keep coming back to it because that is very offensive to us, and it's just frankly not true. But there's a lot of people that have that misunderstanding.
I think a lot of us, ours are a little higher, because we're thinking carefully about it.
There was a quote, and I think the guy's name is Stephen Weinberg at UT. There was a deal about a debate he had in the paper, and one of the comments he made that was just very true was that sometimes religion can lead otherwise good people into doing bad things, which is, I think, a very strong point.
Well, that was, if I could make a couple comments, then I wanted to get to a major question, maybe for another show, or maybe you've done it. This is the first time I watched. I remembered Carl Sagan. I had an interview before he died with, I think, Terry Gross, and she asked him if he believed in God. He said, not some guy up there with a white beard, or I'm not quoting exactly, but what I remembered him saying that I respected a lot was, if God is the sum of all the laws of the universe, of gravity and space and time and all that stuff, then it's an amazing set of laws that's allowed a creation and evolution of amazing life. But then why put the name of God on that, like to still fit in and be okay with religious people? Wanted to say that I'm just appalled when, I've been watching the basketball playoffs, so I'm getting into it, but when they say, Jesus, help me make that shot, or God, help us win this game, if there ever was a God, why would she care who won the game?
That's very good. And if a basketball player is a religious person, then it's probably appropriate for them to appeal to their higher being or whatever. As a matter of fact, maybe that's some of what Ray was talking about earlier, how some superstition or religious beliefs are part of our evolution, is that we're trying to control the environment and things like that. What bothers me is the public displays of athletes, that after they make the shot, then let's get down on one knee and to me that's inappropriate even among I think a lot of religious people even think that's.
Does that mean that God doesn't love the other team as much?
Well, yeah, that's the thing.
It's just too weird.
That's the thing that amazes me about these people. They believe in this stuff, but they never think it through. You were talking about athletes. Have you seen all those commercials they run a lot on CNN? This, that, or the other person telling you to call in this 800 number and get your book about religion.
Yeah.
There's the one with the woman who won like Miss America or something, and she's deaf.
Right.
And she's going, what got me through it was my faith in God. If you believe in this cosmic being who has your best interests in heart, why are you deaf? But, come on, look at your situation. It's great that somebody with a disability could become Miss America. That's wonderful. But if there's a God, why are you deaf in the first place? It's just,
And, and some of them are athletes or race car drivers, and why is that so important? I mean, if I'm going to pray, I'm going to pray to end this war, or,
Right. Let's have some.
I want to invite you down to the bagel shop.
You bet. I'm going to be there. Let me just put out for everyone, maybe this is a question you've had one time.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What might the world be like, and we are going to get there because of science, and we will figure, people used to think the world was flat. I'm sure you use a lot of examples like that I haven't thought of. But what will the world be like without the vast majority of people being confused by religion?
There's a great, do you read science fiction at all?
Oh, yeah.
There's a book out by Greg Egan, I think is the name. He's an Australian science fiction author, and he's just amazing. There's a book out of his short stories called Luminous, and there's a story in there that is set in a near-future time, and the main character is the daughter of, the first generation of people who grew up without any overriding supernatural beliefs. And it's about superstition trying to sneak back into culture. And it's really cool. It's like a detective story, and she's after these supernaturalists.
Thanks. Love sci-fi. I was thinking there'd be more, all the time and money and resources that's put into religion now, and the buildings, the beautiful churches, beautiful daycares and schools, and more money for developing science research and social justice, and it would reduce wars.
That's the point I was going to make. There'd be a whole lot less wars.
Yeah, although most of them, I think, are really rooted in economic injustices, and they blame it on religion.
That's a great question. We should make that a topic for a upcoming show.
That's right.
I will write it down.
We have thought about that. That's very interesting.
Thanks for being there.
Let me ask you a quick question.
Yeah.
You are an atheist. Would you consider yourself? Do you consider that your religion, or how would you? Do you think that an atheist could have a religion?
No.
Okay.
I feel like I have a way of life and of living my life, and I'm deeply concerned about social justice issues, and I work on them, and I think that if people get their feelings out somewhere safe, then they'll behave better and treat each other better. So I work on teaching people those things. But no, I think of religion as a way, a system of beliefs that people will cling to because of hopelessness, powerlessness, fear, and confusion, and lack of misinformation. Why can't we say, I'm glad to see three guys sitting up there saying, we don't know this.
Thank you.
So.
Right.
Well,
alrighty.
You have a great week.
Thank
you. And I appreciate your call.
We'll see you.
Okay, let's go on down to Stefanie.
Yes.
Yes, I appreciate you staying online all that time.
That's all right. Ray, you have said something about the leap between a tree and God.
Yeah, I don't understand how that caller made that leap.
I'm an atheist now. I was born into a Southern Baptist, good old family church,
right.
and
congratulations, by
all
the way.
that. And the thing that I have come to figure out is, when I became an atheist, I figured out that I believed all these things because that's what they told me.
Right.
And I think the belief of Christians has become a religion based on what was implanted in their heads by their family and church. They're not thinking it through.
Right.
That's how they make that leap. They're not thinking it through.
So what you're saying is that if parents didn't start taking their kids to church when they were 2, 3 years old, that a lot of these people would not be Christians? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I've had to go to church every Sunday and Wednesday.
Oh, twice a week. God.
Yeah. No dancing, the whole thing.
And be subservient to males or whatever. That Southern Baptists just put that out or whatever.
Yeah, and I finally just, after I became an adult, realized this is stupid. And, started thinking it through, and then I started watching your show, and,
Thank you.
After I started watching your show, I realized, I'm an atheist now. I didn't know exactly what an atheist was.
Great. Glad we could help.
Thank you. That makes me. That made my day.
Down to the bagel shop.
Because I was getting kind of burned out on the show, and you just made my day with that.
Fired up.
Yes, I can't.
Well, thank you for calling.
And also another thing about Is atheist a religion?
Right.
A couple of days ago, I would have said, well, I don't really care if you call it a religion or not. I mean, I really didn't have any preference. But I just had a procedure done. And before the procedure, you know, at the hospital, they asked me, well, do you have a religion preference? And I said, yes, I'm atheist.
Okay. Okay. Well, that brings up a good point.
Me if something's wrong with my body, you know?
Right. I mean, if you're asked that question, what should you say? I mean, some of us I know have used none a lot, but maybe atheist is a good thing to put on there. I remember in the Navy. I was working at a place where they had a tool shed, and I ended up taking my dog tags, and they had these little die stamps, and I put atheist on there because they wouldn't let me do that in boot camp.
I just realized that, you know, if I said no, then, you know, what if they do put a priest beside me to start
Right,
praying?
if you had no
I don't want that.
I mean, it does make it clear. It doesn't, you know, I guess there's different ways of looking at calling atheism a religion. And not all of them are really nefarious. You know, there are some senses where it makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, I got a bunch of other callers there.
Okay.
I appreciate you calling. Come on down.
Thank you very much for
I'd love to meet you, yes.
Okay, thanks.
You take care. All right. Gary, I'm sorry I'm not going to be able to get to you because it looks like Martha here is going to be our last call. Martha?
Hi. How
Hi.
are you guys doing
Martha.
today?
Excellent.
It's been a couple of weeks since I've been able to call and talk to you guys. I've been out of town and stuff, and I got real upset today, I'm going to have to admit.
On what? Okay. What upset you?
Jess, you've got to calm down, buddy. You have got to realize that other people have a right to some of their beliefs. You get too hostile.
I don't deny their right to have their beliefs.
You're doing it right now. You're not letting me finish.
Okay.
Go ahead, Martha.
When you had the woman that was Wiccan talking,
Yeah.
you totally turned her off. You grabbed your clipboard, and you were busy writing things down. Listen, writing things down that you wanted to say instead of listening to what she was saying. That is respect. Not whether you believe, but having the respect to listen. Is that not what the atheists are all about?
Can I respond?
If you guys would understand.
Ma'am, please.
Yeah,
please.
just one more thing.
What I was in fact
Wiccans
writing
are
down.
the closest thing
She's not going to let me talk.
atheists. I'm going to let you talk just a second.
Well, we don't have much time.
And Wiccans are a lot more similar in their beliefs than you guys realize. Okay. Now,
what I was in fact writing down, were the things she was saying that I wanted to respond to. I was not just writing down my own thoughts. This was my new strategy. I was going to stop trying to yell at people and cut them off and get my word in as they talked. I was going to let them have their say and then respond to those points. And if it came across badly, I'm sorry.
Okay, and we have a special song we want to go out with. Arlo?
Do it.
All right, 1 second. Not time for the Atheist Brunch sketch. We'll go back to the Austin Lounge Lizard.
Oh, okay. Austin Lounge Lizards. All right. Thank you. Austin, we love you. Tune in next week, 9 a.m., Channel 16.
Bye, everybody.